Okay, cool. We're recording. So I have 9 questions for you.
Okay.
7 of which were like predetermined, and then the last 2 I just asked if we're supposed to make our own too.
Okay.
So first question: where did you grow up, and what was it like there?
So I grew up in a suburb of Buffalo, New York,
Okay.
and I come from a blue collar family. My dad was a factory worker, didn't finish high school, and my mom didn't work and was just a high school grad, so pretty different from the academic setting that I find myself in now. The town that I grew up in was pretty small and close to the steel mill where my dad worked. And it was a happy childhood. I had access to a really good education and a really good high school, and I excelled there. And it sort of led me to this path of becoming a scientist.
Nice. So how and when did you decide to become a researcher?
So I said that I had a blue collar background. I don't think I even really knew what a college professor was when I started college, right? And so you start college and you're like, oh, wow, look at there's this whole career out there. I certainly didn't know what sociology is, and that's, of course, the discipline that I settled on for graduate school, and actually was my major as an undergrad as well. But I began to love sociology because I picked it from a course catalog. I wanted to take an aging class. Like, I knew that I was interested in the aging population. My parents were older when they had me. And so I was just always thinking about what it meant to get older in our society. And so I picked sociology of aging as an early class in undergrad. And I loved it, and I had a great teacher, and that teacher really turned me on to the idea that ending your undergrad career wasn't the end, that I should go on, because I was a good student and talented, and she thought I'd be a good candidate for graduate school. And so, again, I don't think I knew what graduate school was or what it would lead me to do in life, but it was like I didn't have anything else. So I followed her suggestion and applied to a graduate program, the same one I was in, which was all at SUNY Buffalo. I got in, I got a full assistantship to go there, which paid my tuition. And for someone who didn't have, tremendous family economic support, it was really helpful to have a funded graduate education. So it was there where I was like, oh, well, I like these topics. I became familiar with the research that my professors did, that I was assigned to, and it was perfect because it was what I wanted to study. They worked on studies of retirement behavior and health changes that happen among older adults, and that's what I still do today.
Nice. So, where did you do your training? You already kind of answered the next part, which is where did you attend,
grad school.
Undergraduate, and you kind of already answered question 4.
I'm rambling, right?
Yeah, how did you decide on your disciplinary research area? Have you done any other research in other areas?
Yeah, those are really good questions. So just one more word on sort of like going to SUNY Buffalo. Obviously, I picked that because it was like in town and I could afford it. And I even drove to, school. I didn't dorm right away because it saved me money. I paid for my own college, my own undergrad education. My parents didn't pay for it. I had, a full ride in terms of tuition.
Sure.
But the other parts of it I had to cover, and so going to sort of like a big research state school in New York ended up shaping, I think, all the opportunities that I had there, because I got to interact with a lot of really active researchers. The weird thing, they often recommend that you don't stay in the same program between undergrad and graduate school.
Okay.
There's a really big bias that comes with the program, and so I already had exposure to all the teachers that I would have as a graduate student, and so in order to have diversity in terms of the influences on what shapes the way that you think and the work that you'll do, it's always good to go somewhere else and broaden your networks. And which, my professors told me, but then they also wanted me to stay. And, again, I was really compelled to stay at the same school for graduate school because I didn't have a lot of basis for truly understanding the impact of making a decision like that, I think. I understand it better now, obviously. But it was a good choice for me because it made, graduate school really doable and successful. I went through pretty quickly. Some people never graduate from grad school, so the whole thing ended up working really well for me to be at SUNY Buffalo for my undergrad and graduate degrees. And then in terms of discipline, I think that I like sociology best because it's just sort of the explanations of social structure and the influences of social status and educational influences, and all those things were really compelling to me in terms of trying to really get at the root of what causes a lot of outcomes in society. So if we want people to age and age well, understanding their experiences in terms of their social and economic background, to me, are the core of what we can do to improve the health and well-being of older adults and their retirement experience and all the things that I went on to study.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
did I do anything else? I don't know. You take when you study aging, it's pretty interdisciplinary, and so I've always had a lot of classes in economics and psychology, and I read those literatures. So, and then now I do a lot more health research, and so of course all the different disciplines that make up public health are, again, literatures that I keep up with.
Okay. So I have, looks like 3 or 4 more questions. 4 more questions. Oh, no, 5 more questions. 5 more questions. What classes do you currently teach, if you teach any, or have taught in the past? And if you did, what was your favorite?
So I don't teach. I have a pure research position here at the University of Michigan. I've only taught one class while I've been here. I've been here, 16 years. That class was just a graduate program class in demography, kind of like an overview of like professional development issues for students who were in the demography program here at the University of Michigan. I actually really like that because that wasn't really teaching a core disciplinary subject, but rather how to be a scientist, how to find a job, how to navigate teaching and research at the same time. So all those kinds of things get covered in these sort of like grad seminars that I've taught here, and I co-taught that with another colleague, and so that was a really good experience. I guess the class, though, along the way, I've certainly taught, this isn't the only university that I've been at. I've had other tenure track jobs prior to coming here, and so there I did have teaching responsibilities, like one class a year. So I even there was pretty heavily involved in research, but I like teaching aging, because that's the core of what I know and do. I know that literature best, and so being able to put together a curriculum around sort of the pressing issues on sociology of aging or population aging is my favorite.
Interesting. To what campus committees or organizations do you belong?
So most of my service work is here in ICPSR, because I'm in a position that is heavily research and heavily administrative. I have a very heavy service commitment here, so I'm on committees that think about sort of the strategic direction of the organization, because I'm a senior in my career at this point. So I'm on a strategy committee and sort of a directors group committee. The other committee that sort of ties most directly to the archiving work that we do here is the Data Stewardship Policy Committee, and that's sort of the issues that we think about how to govern ICPSR's ability to take in data sets from all these research groups around the country and around the world, hold them here, keep the human subjects parts of the data confidential, make decisions about what users can use that data, trying to be equitable and fair so that all researchers have access no matter what their disciplinary background is or what their research agenda is, because, researchers disagree with one another, and one researcher is a proponent of a social program and another one is against it, perhaps. And so making sure that all people from all views and all scientific agendas get access to the data is important. So anyway, that's the committee that makes decisions here, that tries to make sure that our policies remain caring well for the data and also caring well for the equity of access to the data.
Okay. So I'm going to fit my 2 questions in before the last survey question, because I feel like it kind of ties in a little bit better.
Okay.
So my own personal question is, have you thought about retirement, and at what age you'll retire? Or have you not planned for it?
Well, yeah, so I study retirement, so yeah, definitely think a lot about it, and I think planning for retirement is critical, because obviously you want to be in the right financial shape and the right psychological mindset to be ready to retire. So yes, I have thought about it. I want to work long. I don't want to retire early. I don't know, work to me is one of the most essential parts of life. So are other things, but it is up there. It's not like I'm working to retire or working to not work until I'm rich enough to retire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, work itself is significant and meaningful, and a place that gives me a lot of feelings of accomplishment and contribution back to society. So I would assume I would retire after 65.
Okay.
But at the same time, the Institute for Social Research is known for having its founders and some of its earliest significant, important researchers, kind of like are here until like 90s.
Oh wow.
And so like not a small amount of them, like most of them are just like can't imagine a life outside of work at all. So I'm not that person either. I do enjoy the balance that comes with life, with being a parent and a spouse and a family member, a community member. So I just sort of have a rich life outside of work too. So I want to keep working for a long time, but make sure I don't lose sight of the other important parts of life.
Yeah, I actually met a guy on a plane, just a random plane. He was, I think, in his late 70s, and he was working here at the University of Michigan.
It's very common in Michigan.
He was working less hours, but he was still like here part of the time. So
yeah. No, they like literally come in, they like totter in with their canes, and it's like really sweet. Like, it's pretty inspirational in some ways, but then sometimes you just kind of wonder like why there's not more to life for them, that they can't give it up at all.
I mean,
but everyone has to
really
leave their own life.
He was coming back from a Colorado ski trip with his son, who owns a bunch of ski things or something. So he seemed like he was just doing fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. But sometimes, though, I think it's nice to, I don't know, make way for some of the junior scholars. Like, there's certainly a lot of historic studies that are ongoing here that have been ongoing since the 60s. Like, literally the same data collection has been, like, the same group of people have been interviewed since the 60s onwards, from when they were young adults until their ages now, and then all their family members are interviewed. So these big, long-term historic studies. And, there's certainly resistance amongst a certain generation of scientists here to kind of do things in a modern way with those studies, to like share their data and be more open to bringing people in to use the data and things like that. And so that's the part where I'm like, well, if that's the case, sometimes you have to be able to adjust to the times.
Yeah.
Because now the expectation is that things are much more open and transparent, both, the research you do, but even the data sets that you've collected.
So, 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any professional goals that you still wish to achieve? If so, what are they?
Oh, interesting. I'm a little goalless right now. I was just like promoted to full scientist, so that's sort of the top or the pinnacle of the research track that I'm on.
How long ago?
It was just this past year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess, I do have a goal of potentially taking my career in maybe another geographic direction at some point. Like, I don't know if I'd be here at the University of Michigan forever. You know, it's definitely been really amazing to be part of this organization and the scientific community that's around ICPSR. But you know, I'd like to have another experience too, since I've been here for so long. Before I came here, I moved like literally like my house every year or two for like 20 years, it felt like, you know, maybe not 20, but 10 or 15. And I had just like a lot of mobility and excitement in moving, and my husband's kind of the same way. But then when we had kids, we were like, okay, well, we got to pick a place. We're not just gonna like, you know, move kids around every 2 years, because we like new experiences. So I guess I'd like to experience mobility again, you know, geographic mobility, and also, you know, a different university setting. Probably. I'm going to waffle on that one a little.
Cool. So I guess just a little side question. How old are your kids?
So I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. So
Gotcha.
I'm in the teen years.
Fun.
Yes. Where you still are, correct?
Yeah. I got a couple, like 10 more months, roughly, then I'm out of them. So.
So you're an older freshman.
I am. It's very nice being one of the older, like
awesome,
especially in high school. In college, it doesn't matter. But it was very nice being one of the older ones, because I got my license at the start of my sophomore year of high school. It was great. I loved having my own car for 3 years in high school. Yeah,
so my daughter just turned 16, and she's a sophomore, and she has a car.
Is she? Yeah.
She's loving life. She's the only one, and yeah.
Yep, I was in the same boat. So final question.
Yeah.
What hobbies do you enjoy?
Hobbies. So I guess 3 that I'll pick. So all things around exercise. My current passion in exercise is spinning, and we got a spin bike for my 50th birthday this summer. Not we, my husband gave it to me as a gift, because I've always had a gym membership, and I've done aerobics classes, and you know, all the different things you can do at a gym, like everything overall, all the years that I've done that. But I've really taken to spinning in the last half year, and so we are giving up our gym membership because now we have a bike at home, so that's really exciting. Reading, generally, but fiction, fun reading. I do some, obviously, reading for work as well, for fun. Like, that I, you know, there's work reading, but then there's also, like, you know, books that are nonfiction that I like because they're similar to things that I do in my work, but just a little bit more pop culture, so I'll read in that genre as well. And the final one is cooking. Like, I love to cook, and I cook every day. You like order out and eat it, or eat out all the time.
Oh, I
like
hate cooking more than anything.
You hate cooking?
So much. I'm so bad at it. I'm awful.
Well, maybe you'll get better.
That's the hope.
Or maybe you'll have a roommate.
So, yeah,
you have the dorm right now, right?
Yeah.
The dorm food.
Right now I have the dorm food, and I think the only way I'm going to learn how to cook is if I'm just like thrown into the fire of like, okay, now you gotta get your own house. Learn to cook, and it's like, I guess if I want to like survive, I gotta learn how to do this basic thing.
You could just put food together. It's easy these days, right? I mean, there's so
I
many
really
options at the
hope so.
grocery store. You can just go to Whole Foods and eat off the hot bar, you know? It's not so bad, but I love cooking. I've always loved cooking. If I wasn't a professor, I would be a chef.
Nice.
And my family loves that because they get used to eating homemade food.
Yeah, no, my mom, she cooked. She was a pretty good cook, so I never really had to learn.
Yeah.
It was...
Yeah, see, that I'm worried about my kids for that reason, because even though, you know, they are interested in kitchen things and cooking, and they have definitely some skills. They're not at zero, but I hog it. Like, I'm like, no, everyone out of the kitchen, I'm making dinner. And they're like, we can make dinner. No, I'm making dinner, you know, because it's like my unwinding time, so.
See, it was never like that.
I don't share it.
It was never like that. It was like, oh, guess I have to make dinner now. And it was like, does anyone want to help? And it's like, I'll help if you need it, but I mean, I don't really want to cook because nobody likes to cook. So,
yeah, it wasn't the hub of activity at your house.
But my mom was pretty good at it, and she seemed to enjoy it. So
yeah, that's a good, you know. Sometimes it's like not good to be too obsessed with cooking and food. I have to say, because I will just like make really elaborate things or things that aren't even that healthy, because, you know, things that are like richer or more complex, because I like want to try the recipe. There's a technique I haven't done before. You know, instead of just being like, well, here's some steamed vegetables and chicken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's like boring to cook. I don't want to do that. I've done that, you know. So anyway, but thank you for your questions. These were thoughtful and fun.
No problem.
Hopefully you get to know me better, and I get to know you a little better through that.
I mean, if you have any questions for me.
What is your favorite hobby?
Oh.
What do you like to do when you're not
My favorite hobby.
being a student?
So I like to play guitar. So that's a hobby of mine.
Have you always played?
Yeah, I've played for a long time. I think I was in 5th grade when I started. And even though I've played for like a super long time, I'd still consider I know how to do like a lot of things on it, but I'd still consider myself just a pretty casual guitar player. Because even when I was, younger, I never had any like aspirations to like really do music.
It wasn't your goal.
Yeah. So while yeah, exactly. So while it wasn't, it was something that I enjoyed to do. It wasn't something that I was so passionate about that I wanted to throw all of my eggs into one basket on it. I also like to read, although coming to school I've like read less because I'm reading so much out of textbooks. It's nice to take a break from reading as well. I don't like taking a break from reading by reading, so yeah. And after I read like a ton in middle school. And then when I was in high school, that's when I got my first smartphone. When I got my first smartphone, I was on my phone more often. So.
Such a bummer, right?
Yeah, so a little bit of a bummer, but I still read now, so.
I have to set limits for my kids.
Yeah.
Like, limits with the phone, but I mean also like, you have to read 10 books every summer. It's like a deal in my house, like
10 books?
to get through. Yeah.
I don't know if I could get through 10 books in a summer. I mean, I could if I put my mind to it, yeah. But I'm breaking that. That's
one did and one didn't, and it flipped. Last summer, the other one did, and it was sort of interesting to me. I pay them, I should say, to get the prize. You have to read 10.
Well, because that's 3 books a month, and that's about a book every week and a half, or roughly. Because I feel like I have to really put in
summer.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so this past summer I got really lazy. I just did nothing. So maybe if you would have asked me during like my previous summers, like summer going into 12th grade, maybe I would have had a different response. But this
senioritis.
Yeah, this past year it was
take
like
a break before the big.
Yeah, no, I had like 3 books that I wanted to get through, and I had like 2 months to do it, or a month and a half to do it, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to finish all of these in a month and a half. And I didn't. I almost got through one of them. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and then I'd say my biggest hobby is just going out with friends.
Yeah.
So.
Amazing.
Yeah. Although I wouldn't consider myself like a social butterfly at all.
Yeah.
I guess not at all. But, I had my
Doesn't mean you don't like to be doing social things.
Sure,
right?
Yeah, no. But I had like a really close group of friends in high school.
Yeah.
And so I didn't feel the need to go out and make 100 friends. I was like, I got my 8, we're good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. Did any come to Michigan?
No, I'm the only one. Yeah. Wow. So I grew up in East Lansing, which is Michigan State. So 6 of us went to Michigan State. I went to Michigan. I have a friend at RIT, and then another friend at Grand Valley.
Nice.
So yeah, for the most part, we're at Michigan State.
Yeah, so that's nice. You can see them.
Yeah, it is.
My husband is a twin. He went to State.
Did he?
And his brother went to Michigan.
Oh, I like the brother.
And so they always.
Why'd you marry that one?
I know, right? They're twin brothers, but not identical twins. So I definitely like the one I picked. But the other one is a lawyer in New York City. My husband is in marketing and extroverted and balances me.
Nice.
The brother's kind of like me.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Sometimes you'll find that in pairings that you see that you kind of like pick your opposite, at least in some fundamental way. Not always, but some parts of it.
Cool. Well,
yeah.
That's all I have for you.
All right. Well,
cool.
Thank you. That was great. Did Amanda give you things to do